Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sabriyyah Jalloh, and I've been a Muslim for maybe over 20 years, a long time. Um, I became a Muslim. I was a Christian. I'm an only Christian, only Muslim in my family. And I was seeking something. I was always a religious person, and I was seeking something that I needed fulfillment in my life. Okay. So the way I became a Muslim is I started a new job. And when I walked into the job, there was a brother there that was a Muslim. And when I came in, he started talking to me about Islam. Of course, I was a Christian. I was one of those real devout Christians, but I didn't get the fulfillment out of Christianity like I saw everybody else was getting. I would be in church, everybody would be speaking in tongues and all these things, and I kept wondering why I couldn't do this. What was wrong with me? So I went to the preacher and I asked him, I said, these people, you are speaking in tongues, no one is interpreting, and I can't do this. Is there something wrong with me? And he couldn't give me an answer. So the brother that I was talking to at work that was a Muslim, we would go into debates about Christianity and Islam. So he continued to talk to me. We continued to talk. But on the way to work every morning, I would pass this huge building. It was a mosque. Me, I didn't know what a mosque was, nor did I know what a Muslim was, because I was raised and brought up as a Christian. So when I passed by the mosque, because I was so curious about what it was, so one Friday I stopped and I went in and I was dressed, I had no clue. I was dressed in stilettos, a leather dress with, I was not dressed properly. But they did not say, oh my God, where are you? Where are you going? No, they weren't like that. The sister welcomed me into the masjid. And I went in and I said, what is this place? She said, it's a mosque. I said, what is a mosque? She said, it's where Muslims pray. I said, what is a Muslim? I had no clue. So she took me in and she showed me around and she explained to me, Islam. But then I still didn't take the Shahada. I wanted to know really for myself. So what I did after going there and learning from the brother that I used to work with, I read the whole Quran and I read the whole Bible. I already had a lot of knowledge with the Bible because that's where I was raised as to be a Christian. And I was a very good Christian at the time, but it just wasn't fulfilling to me. I felt like I was always missing out on something. And then the part where they would say, you have to pray to Jesus to get to God. I never understood why I had to pray to someone to get to God when I felt like I could pray directly to Allah. So I read the whole Quran, I read the whole Bible, and then I made my choice. So I went back to that same masjid that I used to pass to go to work every day. And I asked the same sister, I said, sister, how do I become a Muslim? And she says to me, she said, follow me. So she told me that I needed to say the Shahada. So I said it, Alhamdulillah, and I became Muslim. The reason why I became Muslim is because it's not confusing. The Quran was not confusing to me at all. When I read it, I understood it. It wasn't like a storybook. It like explains to you every aspect of what you needed to know. As the prophets, in Christianity, they say that you have to pray to Jesus. In Islam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessings be upon him, he's a prophet. Okay, he eats, drinks just like we do. But in Christianity, they made me feel like that we had to pray to Jesus, and if we didn't pray to Jesus, our prayers was not going to be answered. I just didn't understand it. It was too confusing. So that's not another reason why I came to Islam, because it was direct, and I could pray directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as the prayers, we pray 5 times a day. I felt like the prayer in the morning, the Fajr prayer, mashallah. When I would miss, if you miss the Salatul Fajr, I felt like my whole day was just not right. So I would pray, we pray the Salatul Fajr, the Salatul Dhuhr, the Salatul Asr, the Salatul Maghrib, and the Salatul Isha. And that keeps you straight on the path of Allah when Allah is always on your mind. Always on your mind. That's another reason why I became a Muslim. And the other thing is that when you open up that Quran, it's not like, and I keep comparing Christianity to Islam because that's what I have to do, because this is how I became a Muslim, because I was searching for something and I found it by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you open up the Quran, it tells you at the beginning to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why we're here, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fasting is another good thing that I was very, it amazed me that we fast for 30 days, and I thought that I couldn't do it. But when you believe and you have that faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the strength to do the fasting. I thought I couldn't do it. And when I became Muslim, the dress style, ya Allah, I put on hijab, but I didn't know that you wasn't supposed to wear short sleeves or whatever. So the sisters they were so nice, mashallah. They said, Sabriyyah, you have to cover your whole body, your arms, everything. It's just modesty. I didn't understand it, but alhamdulillah, I did it, and it made sense to me. It made a lot of sense to me because it takes away, from people. For example, Islam, when the sister dress, you must wear the kimar, but it's all about modesty. It's all about modesty. It's not about, showing your body, all these things. You can still dress normally, like a dress and everything, but you are covering your body, and it's just showing respect and modesty. That's it. What else? The most important thing to me about becoming a Muslim is the Quran. When I read it from the beginning, the opening surah, Al-Fatiha, that is what took me all the way. And at the beginning, it just tells you to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when I became a Muslim, my family members, that was hard because everybody in my family is Christian. And when I became a Muslim, my sisters, they tried to take my children away from me, say that I joined a cult. She even called the police on me, and the police came. And they said, we can't do anything about your sister changing her religion. She's not a bad parent. There's nothing wrong with her. So I did go through something, but my parents, alhamdulillah, they said she's just a better person. Look at her. She does everything. She's just a better person. She feeds the homeless. She's better to everybody, And my sisters just thought that they were evil. They would put pork in my food. They would treat me really, really bad. But today, alhamdulillah, they have accepted me as a Muslim. So when I come around them, they accept me. They accept my deen, mashallah. But it took some time. It took some time because I'm still the only Muslim in my family. No one else is converted, but I make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through my actions that they, inshallah, will become Muslim someday. Again, let me just go back. Everybody in here looks like they're Muslims, so inshallah, as the Quran and the Surah to Al-Fatiha, I will recite it for the ones that do not know what we say every prayer, and then I will put it in the English version for you. Is there anyone in here that is not Muslim? Okay, inshallah. Okay. So, what we say at the beginning of every prayer is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Khairil maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, Lord of all the worlds, Master of the day of judgment, to whom we worship and to his aid we do seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those whom thou hast restored thy grace, and not the way of those who have earned thy wrath, and not the way of those who have gone astray. Ameen. That is what made me become Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So that is my story and my journey to Islam.
So for me, my name is Kimberly Saxon, Ismail, and I reverted to Islam about over 10 years ago. I think after 10 years I stopped counting, so it's probably really 13 maybe. And I started out, just give you a little background about me. I grew up in a country home. It was I was one of 6 children. And I remember going into church. I have small memories. I was either 4 or 5 years old, and I remember going to church. And we would go to church. It would be exciting because we would get dressed up, and we would go to the church and then drop our change into the collection plate. And I remember only a short period of time, and I remember our dad pulling us all out of church. It was 6 children. And I remember the people, the congregation coming, hey, what's wrong? You need to bring your children back to church. You know, you need to be going to church too. And I remember he would kick them all out. And that was my extent to going to church until about, I'll say, going out, getting ready to get married in the 20s. But even though I didn't go to a church, into a physical building, it was church in our home, meaning our dad was very strict. He was very strict. We couldn't date. We couldn't go out with anyone unless our parents or an older sister went. Before we left the house, he checked our dress to find out how we were dressed. So although we didn't go, quote, into a physical church, it was just, to me, my words, just as bad. So as I talk, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone or anyone's religion, because I was there. So as I say things, I'm trying to keep it real, if that's okay. Is that okay with everybody? I want to keep it real. So as I was getting ready to get married, I remember before we get married, the pastor said that we had to go to counseling, spend 3 days or 3 sessions. So I went to, that was my next experience with going into a church. We had our counseling into the church. We go there, and they talked about the, marriage. It was a commitment not only between the two of us, but between God. And I thought it was good. I liked it. And I said, okay, this is great. Got married. We did the married thing. And, I had no intention on getting divorced. This is, it. 2 years later, my mind changed. I said, wait a minute, what did I get into? And no disrespect to my ex-husband or anything, but I couldn't live with it. And I went back to the pastor who married us, and I said, something's not right. I need to get out of here. And they were saying, no, you don't get divorced. When you marry, it's a commitment. It's between you and God, and you don't get a divorce. And I said, I wasn't happy. So I'd go back home, try and make it work. And it was an abusive relationship. And I went back again, said, hey, we need to talk. Bring your husband in. He won't come in. So I tried to talk with them, and then his wife came and tried to sit with me and says, reminded me of what we talked about 2 years ago, about the commitment, and you got to stay in it. And I remember going back, trying to work it out. Things didn't work out, and 6 years later, so it was a total of 8 years, 6 of them was miserable. I take some of the credit for that misery because I wasn't probably the easiest person to live with either. So doing that, I remember thinking, if this is what religion is, I don't want it. So I remember saying, forget this. I'm not interested. I got a divorce. And I said, hey, if I'm going to burn, I'm going to do what I want to do. So I did what I want to do, basically. And then as I'm going through life, something's missing. Something's not right. So I continued to search. And I went to look at books. I didn't want religion because I already knew what religion was about. So I didn't want to be religious. I wanted to be spiritual. And I wanted enlightenment. So I started looking at books on enlightenment, how to be spiritual, again, because religion was not for me. So I looked at the books, written by agnostics. It was great, but still it seemed like something was missing. I said, let me try this church thing again. Let me just see if I can find the right church. So I researched. For about 1.5 years, I researched and went through each and every single church, all the different churches, and try and get a feel for it, and I still wasn't sure which is the right one. So I found one that was considered a non-denominational church. So I went to a non-denominational church. They didn't claim anything, no Baptist religious. So I went there, and I started going to church, and it was great. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. My daughter went to the Sunday school, and she learned about the Bibles, all the stories in the Bible. So I remember after 2.5 to 3 years, someone approached me and said, when are you going to become a member? I said, a member? What's a member? Why do I need to be a member? He said, well, if anything happens to you, we will pay for your rent or your mortgage, your groceries, if you lose your job. And I said, you won't do that now? And he said, no, you have to be a member. Now, mind you, I was paying my tithes. And when I found out how much you pay, you calculate your gross income, 10% of that, and you give it to the church, which is what I did. So I was doing this for 2 or 3 years, and I wasn't going to get help, but I couldn't say anything. So I said, let me read the Bible and see what it says, because I don't remember of all the stories and all those stories I read with my daughter, all the bedtime stories, Bible stories, I don't remember Jesus said you had to be a member before he would help you. So I decided to step back. Instead of going to church, I said, okay, I spend about 20 minutes getting ready, 10 minutes to get there, 10 minutes through the praise and worship, the music, the band, which was nice, the greetings, the prayer requests, the thank you cards, the 10 minutes for the pastor to speak. And I totaled it up, it was about 2 hours. I said, instead of me going to church, I'm going to read the Bible and see what's in the Bible. 2 hours every Sunday. So I read the Bible, highlighted it, colored, took notes. And I remember reading through it, it's like, oh, what? Jeremiah, we don't drain a tree and adorn it with silver and gold? What? No pork? So I was reading shrimp. So I was reading through it and taking notes. So I had a whole bunch of notes, highlights in the Bible. I went back and I said, I would like to have a meeting with the pastor. And we had a meeting. His wife came and his daughter, who was one of the deaconess at the time. So we had a meeting to answer all the questions. And they answered it, but I didn't feel like, to my satisfaction, they were answered. Maybe because of my limited knowledge, but I just didn't understand it. It didn't seem to address it. So I decided to do some more research. I researched the holidays. Okay, what does the Easter Bunny have to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ? What does Thanksgiving, what does it really mean, 4th of July? And I studied and researched all the holidays. And his birthday, when is his birthday? I mean, if this is, Jesus' birthday, what would he really want? So as I read the Bible, I started to try and implement the things. And it was my understanding that we don't bring a tree and adorn it with silver and gold. So I remember I had just purchased, I was doing well as a single mom, I had just purchased a blue spruce tree, and it was an artificial tree, 6 foot. And I always dreamed of having gold trimmings and garland. So I had gotten the tree, and I got gold trimmings and garland, and then just the white lights. And it was beautiful. And I remember, I just bought this tree, spent over $200-something. I can't celebrate Christmas anymore. I remember talking to my daughter, this is the last Christmas we're going to have like this. And afterwards, when I folded that tree up, took it down, for some reason I had a heart to put it away. I waited until afterwards. And I took it out. I said, who can I give this to since I spent money? I said, no, if I give it to somebody else is going to not do right. So I'm going to just put it in the garbage. And that's what I did. I put it in the garbage. Me putting that tree in the garbage was symbolizing me really turning the leaf to do the things that I was doing. And then I ended up meeting a Muslim. And just like Sabriyyah, I had not been familiar with Islam. I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't familiar with it, a mosque, so I remember doing some research and I started learning about Islam. And then I went out and got the Quran and I was reading it and it had questions also. So I went to ask questions. I went to a masjid, called, set up an appointment. They were able to answer the questions I had, not only in the Quran, but also, let me see if you can answer these, but in the Bible. So it felt good, it felt real. And during my time when I was doing research, the next religion that I was going to look at was the Mormons. So I had a Mormon book, which is still in my bookshelf, but actually in the box because I haven't unpacked it because I moved. But Mormon was going to be the next religion that I searched because I was, again, searching. But I haven't gotten to it. So once I got to Islam, I found out that, or for me, that this is it. I felt the wholeness. It felt real. Again, no disrespect to any other religion or any that I studied or was in it only for a brief period of time. But I felt like this was it, and it changed. I could see how my life changed because of this. And just going through, I remember connecting, going to the masjid, and they had what is referred to as a halakha, or a group study on Sundays. So I remember going every single Sunday, taking notes. And then somebody asked me, hey, you're going to do something Sundays? No, I got to go to, and I think it slipped out, church. But I'm going to the masjid, and they said, you act like you're going to church every Sunday. And I said, but I am going to get information. So I remember studying and trying to implement what Islam was doing. And I remember doing so much because when you go there, you learn something. You learn something new. You learn some different prayers. You can do sunnah prayers, which is extra prayers. You learn you can read some surah at night. You read a surah, one for protection, another for prosperity. So I was trying to do all of that. And I remember I felt burnt out. And I remember going back to the person at the masjid, the sister who talked to me. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't do this. She said, what do you mean? I said, I can't be a Muslim anymore. I resigned. So she was wondering, what do you mean you can't, resign? You just don't resign. And she was saying, are you doing the 5 daily prayers? I said, yeah, I'm doing 6, 7. And because I was doing it extra. She said, stop, relax, take a deep breath, and just do the basics. Can you do the 5 daily prayers? Easy, yeah, no problem, I can do that. Can you fast during the month of Ramadan? Yes, I can do that. Can you, pay your zakat? So zakat is paying your alms or to the poor. So unlike when I was doing Christianity, when I was going to the church, they were saying you pay 10% of your gross amount. What I appreciated was with Islam is 2.5% of whatever is left over that you had for an entire year. So it wasn't something that you did every single Sunday. It's only whatever you have left. And if you don't have anything left, then you're not obligated to pay. So that, I said, wow, that's a big difference. And not only pay, I didn't pay it to anyone. I paid it to whom meets the criteria of being poor. So I paid it, I could pay it directly to that person or an organization. And that was between me and Allah, our creator. So it was doing the prayers. Can you do the prayers? Yes. Can you pay your zakat? Yes. Can you fast during the month of Ramadan? And yes. And the Hajj, when you're able to, can you do Hajj? And the number one is, do you believe? Of course, I believed in the one God, the creator of the heavens and earth. And the name is Allah. And that felt good because I remember growing up, hearing the word God. God sounded like a title to me. Never sounded like a name. So when I heard the name, when it was Allah, I said, oh, okay, that answers my question. More easier. And Islam is a transition. It's a transition because it's a way of life. You don't just stop cold turkey and do one thing and do another, you can absolutely. But it's a gradual process because you don't want to burn, as I did, burn myself out. So we do it little by little and gradually. And that was a blessing for me. So okay, I can't fuss with Sabriyyah because, yeah, this is a story. I mean, how much more? So there are some other things that I would like to talk about that quite didn't fit neatly into that timeline. One of the biggest things was, the hardest things I think was, for me, was wearing the hijab. Because I was wondering, I said, wait a minute, I see a lot of Muslims don't wear it. And if we don't have to wear it, why, what's the purpose? I didn't really have a real understanding of it. And when I learned about it and the purpose of it, our hair is our adornment, it should be for our spouse, our husband, and dressing modesty, as Sabriyyah has mentioned, dressing modesty. So all of those things sounded right. And I remember seeing pictures of the women in the Bible, and at least the nuns, and they all fit that criteria of dressing and covering and dressing modesty. Another thing was, so when I was, at the time when I reverted, I was a vice president of a network security firm. So I was a vice president of information assurance and security. And I remember, being nervous about telling them, and I had one to tell them because, hey, I'm going to start wearing my hijab. And they said, you can't do that. You're a vice president. If you do that, that's not going to look good for us going out and getting new business. And I said, well, I'm going to wear it. I just want to let you know. So they would have meetings. All right, we'll negotiate. Will you be willing to take it off when we have corporate meetings? And I said, no. Once I put it on, it stays on. So I remember taking a down step, a pay grade, because I said, hey, I'm not going to go back and forth and take it off. I'm going to leave it leave it on. And I remember they had a meeting with the customer, and it was with the Department of Defense, and it was the customer. And they said, we need to let her know what's going to happen. And then she came over, both of them, it was the deputy and her chief, came over, and we had the table, and they sat down and said, I'm not sure if you know it, but Kimberly's Muslim. She's going to start wearing her hijab. We don't know what kind of impact that's going to be on the customer. She says, I don't care. Kimberly, are you going to still do good work like you did before? I said, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I am. She says, okay, so what's the problem? Looked at the president. What's the problem? In fact, Kimberly, you're doing some good. When's the last time you got a raise? It's been a while. She needs a raise. When's the last time, do you have any work from days from home? I said, no, she needs at least 2 days to work from home. What else do you want? And then so something that I was so fearful of doing, and look how it turned out. So it worked out fine. And then later, eventually, I ended up, because of the different companies would come in, I wouldn't be invited to that. I decided to step back. I'm not going to fight or argue. So that was one of the things, the challenging things that I had. As far as my family, it was not an issue. They were okay with it. It seemed, the 3 years that I had took to put on the hijab, they were okay. Okay, Kimberly, she's different. She's always been doing something. I'm a hypnotist, so they always know I do something outside of, the quote norm. So when I put the hijab on, they got scared. Oh no, we're going to pray for you. We don't know what you're doing. You're in some cult. Again, he said it was a cult. And they said, we're going to pray for you so that you can come back. I said, no, I'm praying for you. So it caused a lot of friction. But alhamdulillah, like with Sabriyyah, I remember going there, taking my own food, and because they were, still into the pork and the ham. And now at this point, when I go there, they say, this is Kimberly's, can't eat that. This is Kimberly's, because theirs is separate. We didn't even use the same spoon. And then they all know, hey, we found a place, a halal place, where it has the, that has a halal meat. So it took time. And as with Sabriyyah, which she had pointed out, I was a better person. I wasn't straightforward. It gave me humility, because I would tell people things that I thought they should do or should be and didn't like. I had no problem. I didn't bite my tongue. So now it's like I have humility. I have patience. My husband may not think that, but I came a long way, okay? So, yeah, so I think I'm not going to keep rambling on because it is hard to talk 30 minutes, so I apologize for getting on you.
You're good.
So.
But a lot of the things that Kimberly said, like I'm a nurse. So in the hospital, there were other nurses, but they didn't wear hijab. So when I came to the hospital and I had on hijab, they were like, why are you wearing hijab and the other nurses don't? I said, I can't answer for them, but I am a Muslim and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we should cover. So that got back to the other nurses and they're saying, Sabriyyah, people are coming in and asking us, why are we not wearing hijab? I said, well, you have to answer them for yourself. I can't answer that for you. I said, but I'm not taking off my hijab. So like Kimberly said, when you trust in Allah, because when you are on a job or when you apply for it, you always think, oh, they're not going to hire me because I'm Muslim. They're not going to hire me because I wear hijab. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always opened the doors for you. So when I kept on my hijab and the other sisters didn't cover, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the doors for me. I became the nurse manager. I got a raise. So when you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all that fear that you have about the hijab, it goes away. And Allah just reversed everything in your favor. And alhamdulillah, the sisters, they started wearing hijab. They put them on. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, thank you. There's another story I'd like to share, if I may. In reference to, I told you my life was better and that things were going better. I felt not a wholeness, but felt like that whatever was missing was now filled. The void was no longer there. And the more I learned, I'm still learning, even though it's been over 10 years, I'm still learning. And one of the things that I remember that we're supposed to, give and share. And I remember there was a time where I was going to move, do a transition, and I came, out of the country, and then I was told, hey, we got a contract. You have as much fun as you can there, because when you come back, there's going to be a lot of work. So I decided, okay, things aren't going here like I thought it was. I'll go back and I'll do some consulting, because by day I'm a cybersecurity analyst also. So there was some work, and then when I came back, transition, the work was coming slow. It was like 7 hours a month. 1 month it was 16. The most at one time was like 35 hours a month. And I don't know if you're familiar with hours, but that's not a lot of money, right? To work and pay your rent and to eat. Although it was just me, my daughter was growing in college at the time. I remember saying, hey, and so I started depleting my retirement, charging up the credit card because I needed to live. So there was a point where I was $800 short on my rent. I didn't have the money. And I lent a lot of money out, so I started calling people who I knew who had the money, who I thought would be able to give it back in return. Because I never, they said they would give it back to me, but they never came back and gave it. So I said, let me see if they could give it. So all the people I called back, and some I didn't call because I knew that they were still struggling. So I wasn't able to get it. And there was one person left, and I didn't want to talk to the person, but I said, let me call that person and get that money. All I needed was 800, but I know they're doing well. I'm going to ask for 1,000 because that will help me with the next one. So, because I had lent that person some money as well. So when I called that person and said, oh, I'm getting ready to go out of the country, don't have the money, I thought, what am I going to do? I hung up the phone. And I'm not a cry, she'll know, she's known me for a year. I'm not a crybaby. I'm not one who cries or getting too emotional. I remember getting teary-eyed because I said, what am I going to do? I was faced with, at least me, homeless. And I started thinking about the people who are homeless. What am I going to do? I can't pay my rent. And I said, I remember praying and saying, oh God, please help. I went to bed. And when I woke up the next morning to check my mail, because I was also seeing clients, so see if anybody registered any appointments to see a client. And then I got an email from a contractor said, hey, I know we don't have a formal contract in place, but I want to know if you could just do us one favor, please. Can you review this document? We're going to give you $840. And I remember, subhanAllah, and I couldn't, I mean, that was a moment in my life where I understood what faith meant. And I believed it, and I saw it, and I felt it. And it was wonderful. And again, those and many things like that throughout my life. And I had the 800 I had and another 40 to be able to get groceries and food. And then from then on, the contracts came, started working, and everything was good. Alhamdulillah. So doing things like that have been happening because belief. And even if things, for example, prior to Islam, things would happen, struggles, and they were hard. You know, they were tough times, you know, but I was always like, hey, I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to do what I need to do, make it happen, thinking it was on my, you know, my doings. And then as I came to Islam, still going to have problems, but I look at it differently because it's not just me trying to do it. When I pray and put it in Allah's inbox and not worry about it, Allah answers it. And even if it's not what I think I want, or He doesn't give me what I'm asking for, it's what I needed. And it was better than what I thought I needed. So as I look and read the Quran, just as Sabriyyah talked about the Quran, when I read through the Quran and I read it, I remember reading it, I get so much inspiration, so much charge from it. Because there are a lot of places, and I remember when I get down, everybody ever been down before? Depressed? Downtime, okay. When I look through the Quran and there's a place that says, not a leaf falls from the tree unless through the leave of Allah. Meaning if He knows that that leaf is down there, then He surely knows what I'm going through. And there's another one that says, not a speck on the earth or in the heavens, smaller than an atom, does He not know. So if He knows about those, and I apologize, I'm paraphrasing, that's the English translation of the Quran. So if He knows all of that. So I remember whenever I got down, I would look outside to find a leaf. I remember one day, where are the leaves? I couldn't find it. So I did see a pin needle, one of the pine trees, the pines. So that counts too. And then I remember looking for a piece of dirt or a crumb, and that would give me hope and give me, rejuvenate me. It's like, yes, I know. So if He knows about that, He knows about what I'm going through. So I remember just praying and putting it in His inbox. When I start worrying about it, there's a little girl who said, you can't worry and worship. I said, I like that. Can I use that? So when I pray about it, and if I take it out and start worrying about it, that means I took it out of Allah's inbox. That means I don't have the faith and trust that He can do what I'm asking Him to do. He can do whatever it is. All He has to do is say be, and it is, and it's done. So yes.
Kimberly, you don't need that.
Oh,
Kimberly,
for the mic.
I love her because when I'm going through something, she says, Sabriyyah, did you put it in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's inbox? I said, yes, but I took it out. She said, you can't take it out, Sabriyyah. You've got to leave it in there and continue to leave it in there. So alhamdulillah, it works.
Yes.
MashaAllah,
Yes.
it works. That inbox works.
Yes.
She is like, we are like when I think of her, she's thinking of me. That's how close we are connected. SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
So that inbox, it works,
Yeah,
mashallah.
leave it in. Because Allah can do for us what we believe He can do for us. If we believe it can't be done, then we just diminished what He can do. Okay? We good on time? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So the question, just repeat it. Just the question. I don't know if everybody heard it. How can we put this information to strengthen the children, especially those who are in the schools, to get this in their hearts, and to let them know that they are different, but to be strong. Is that it?
I can give you a story, a true story. I work at King Abdullah Academy in Herndon. Of course, you know that's an Islamic school. So most of the students there are Muslim, but we do have some non-Muslims that go there too. So we had one student to come to the school, and she felt a little bit out of place because everybody there was Muslim and they were all speaking in the Arabic. Of course, they spoke English too, but when she went around the other students, she felt a little bit out of place. So she didn't want to come back. So she came to the clinic and she was acting as though she was sick, but she really just wanted to talk. She wanted to understand how she could fit in. And I said, Alhamdulillah, you are at an Islamic school. The majority of the kids are Muslim. I said, but you can learn from it and they can learn from you. And she just felt a little isolated because they were all like together and they weren't with her. So I told her, I said, talk to them. Talk to them. They speak English. Most of them do, but they speak Arabic too. So she opened up a little bit because she was like to the side. So I told her, you said, you are who you are. I said, I think she was Christian, but her parents wanted her to be diverse. And they wanted her to learn about Islam. And they wanted her to learn the Islamic studies and things like this. So she stayed at the school. She's still there. This just happened like last week. She's still there. She's doing good. She's made friends. But she had to understand that don't be shy. She was a little shy. She didn't know how to socialize a little bit. So she met one friend, and then the others came around. But in public school, like for me, my children, when I became Muslim, my children, they were small, and they went to public school, and they had a hard time. I actually, like Kimberly was saying, every Sunday, her and her daughter, Kimber, was going to the Sunday schools on Sunday. I have 3 daughters, and we would go to Sunday school on Sundays too, and I thought that would help them when they went to school, to make them feel, that it's okay. Well, they went, it didn't help, subhanAllah. I didn't know what else to do but just continue to go to the masjid and to empower them and let them know that it's okay to be different, but you also could learn and you won't be ignorant of other religions. And they learned that, but it was hard. It's hard. You do have to start at home and teach them, the differences between, the other religions, but be who you are. Be who you are. And socialize and learn from other religions so that they will learn from you too. And like I said, the other little girl at the other school, she's made friends. Alhamdulillah, she's socializing now, everything. So she just needed to talk and open up because she didn't have any guidance or anything. And a lot of at King Abdullah, we have a counselor there. She talks with them. We all work together as a team. And when any time that the student, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, they have a problem, we all work together as a team to try to help them out to fit in so they don't leave, inshallah.
And I was going to just add, if I may add to that, how, to get them strong and just information, giving them, teaching them, letting them know about their self, their identity, and it's okay to be different, okay to be who we are, and teaching them about the religion and not be ashamed of it. And the purpose for wearing the hijab, if that's what we're talking about, different, why we wear it, why we dress a certain way. A lot of those things, because peer pressure is very strong, especially as they get into teenagers, very, very strong. So, yes. I think you had her hand first?
How have you guys convinced your children to wear the hijab when they got older?
Because my daughter was older. When I reverted, she was in college. So she has put it on from time to time. But is your children there? Yeah. Yeah. But to answer, if I may, to answer a question, if I had a daughter, if it was younger, I would have her wear it on at a younger age. Starting very young, even though it's not required at that time, but at a young age, when you go to the masjid and we go out, putting it on, because and looking, wearing it, letting her pick out the ones that she liked, letting her pick out the colors, whatever. It's just like children, they like to pick out their clothes. Now, which scarf do you think would go good with this? And let her wear that, cover it,
And that's what most of the parents have said, that when they start off young, and you allow them to pick the ones that they like, it's easier for them to wear it.
I didn't heard that.
Okay. It's a long question, brother.
Yeah.
If I can paraphrase. Did everybody hear it, first of all? Did you guys get to hear it? Okay, so I'll have to repeat it. Thank you. I'll repeat it anyway, okay. So, in hearing my story, you heard me, my growing up, my dad was trying to teach me and going to the pastor, and the pastor, not being happy with your words with one, being with the one I married, and, things not that I didn't like or wasn't fond of as far as the religion and Christianity. But you didn't hear me say what was the one thing that made me convert. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
respect
In the spiritual respect. Okay. So one of the things I want to clarify wasn't that I wasn't happy with the husband. I wasn't, but I don't think any person, and again, no disrespect to him, should be beaten. I was getting beaten, so I don't think anybody should stay in a relationship. I don't care how religious you are or what your religious say. And if there's a religion that says you have to stay in, you can't, then that's not the religion for me. And one of the things I liked about Islam was it gives you a way out. Allah knows that two people may not always be of the same. So it allows you a way out. So that was one of the things that was like, oh, okay, so I'm not so bad. Because I was feeling that I was bad because I got a divorce. So that's one thing. Growing up, our father was teaching us just right from wrong. So I guess if I was have to say it was it seemed like something was missing. Because during the valleys or the journey of life, it felt like there was something missing or I wasn't quite getting what I wanted, which is why I was seeking enlightenment or spirituality or not religion, but spiritual. I wanted something. So I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my hand on it. So it wasn't until I started reading and researching and, wording. And then it felt like I got it when I was doing the church. It felt like I got it when I was doing the looking at the, as far as enlightenment books. And then when I got to Islam, the fact that I can pray to Allah, because I had went to a yard sale and I saw Jesus on the cross. I remember putting that on my wall. And I remember kneeling down and praying, astaghfirullah, praying to that. And I remember, I gotta wait till I get home so I can pray. It's like, no, what I like about Islam, I can pray anywhere, anytime I want because there's a direct connection. I don't have to go to anyone. So I don't know if there was like one thing, but I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. And that was one that, hey, wow, this is great. I can pray. I don't need to go to the pastor to pray. I can just pray directly to God. And I saw someone have a T-shirt, prayer is the best wireless connection. Right? So I could go straight. I didn't have to go to anybody. So that was powerful to me, not having to pray to Jesus. And a lot of things started making sense. It didn't make sense. I didn't understand how someone can die to wash my sins away. So I can act a fool and do the things I want to do, but I'm okay because my sins are washed away. It didn't make sense to me. And I remember all this that we went through, or that, I'm going being good, doing everything I'm supposed to do. And then somebody can act up, murder, kill, and then before he dies, oh, please forgive me. And he goes straight to heaven. That's good. It's all good because we should worry about ourselves individually. But I remember during that time thinking that's not fair. Something doesn't seem right. But Allah's all merciful. So in answering that, did I answer your question? Because I'm trying to think, was it one thing? And if I had to sum it up, just not being happy in life or things not going the way I thought it should be, because I thought we're on this earth not to be happy, but I didn't think we were supposed to have this many trials and tribulations. And I didn't tell you even half of it, So I remember, and we still have them. They don't go away when I became Muslim, but I'm able to handle them better, okay? I'm able to deal with them better. I think it was, in order to go to ask questions. It was a good question. And can I keep it real? Be honest? There was a lot of times where especially during the transition with the hijab, I would ask the sisters who weren't wearing the hijab, do we have to? Number one question, don't ask somebody who's not wearing it, do you have to? So well, I had all the reasons why not to, where I was comfortable. And we get to careful also going on the internet, reading and researching. And because there's, not everything on the internet is legit. So sometimes it was what I had to do, because I started saying, wait a minute, if she's not wearing her hijab, she was born Muslim, why do I have to wear mine? Why do I have to? So yes and no. And also, we're people first. So in doing that, I remember saying, wait a minute, let me not do what everybody else is doing. Let me just stick to what's in the Quran and the Hadiths. So when I changed my focus to that, then I was able to put on my hijab. Then I was able to do the things that I wanted to do. Because a lot of times when you talk to other people, oh, you don't have to do that, or you don't have to wear that. No, that was before. So for me, I remember just focusing on the Quran and the Hadiths and the scholars, going to the masjid, asking the imams for the questions to get the answers. As I did in the church when I went to the pastor, I went directly to the people who are knowledgeable, most knowledgeable. So having a sisterhood, it was fine, but I remember I didn't speak Arabic. So a lot of people were speaking Arabic, and I felt like I was sitting in my corner. So we would have gatherings, and I sat in my corner a lot. So those Muslims who are here, as new people come on, it's beautiful. We all, greet them, but speak in English. And if you do go out and you invite them and you have your, it's good that you speak with other and speak your language. We feel left out because we're not included in, because most people here can speak English. So that is and one of the regrets that I have is that I didn't learn Arabic more. I should be speaking fluent right now, but I'm not able to. So I can only do little bits and pieces, and I can read the Quran, but I don't understand what I'm reading. So yes and no, if I could keep it real. And but having a sisterhood, yes, it was helpful to hang out and do things, have places to go. But for me, my mode was in study mode, and I remember getting everything. I didn't watch TV, nothing. When I study, it's all or nothing. So I was able to study and do that. And I think I felt more awkward in the beginning going out because I was also a little shy. And so it was a little harder for me. So what about you? What's your experience?
Like Kimberly was saying, we can't go by what people say, because when I first became Muslim, I thought that I had to wear black. I thought I had to wear the niqab. I thought I had to wear all of that. And come to find out, you don't. You just have to dress modestly. After, like Kimberly also said, we have a lot of in common. When I was studying and researching and searching, I had to read the Quran, I had to read the Hadith in order to understand, because everybody have their different opinions, and we have to follow what the Sunnah, the Prophet, the way he lived, and that in the example. And that's what I had to do in order to, that's what inspired me. I had to study. I had to read the Quran, I had to read the Hadith, and then I realized, I don't have to wear just black. That's a culture that I figured out, that I don't have to just wear black, because I had went and bought all black kabayas, all black hijabs, everything I had bought all black, until I realized that I didn't have to do that I just needed to dress modestly and cover my aura, and that's it. So reading and going directly to the person that knows this information, like the scholars and the imams. I remember Imam Majid. I went to him and I asked him, I said, Imam Majid, do I have to wear all this black? And he said, Sabriyyah, subhanAllah, no. He said, you don't have to wear black. You don't have to. He said, it's not obligatory that you wear the niqab. And I thought it was. I thought I was supposed to wear the niqab. And he said, no, you don't have to wear that. So alhamdulillah, I went straight to the imams. I went straight to the scholars. I went straight to the books. I went straight to the hadith. And those is where I got the answers and inspired me to do what I needed to do. The reason why I said speaking in tongues is because everybody was speaking in tongues in the church. Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody was speaking in tongues in the church. And for me, I thought, okay, why am I not speaking in tongues? I'm a religious person. Everybody is doing this. Why can't I do this? So I went to the minister and I asked him, I said, what are they saying? Aren't you supposed to have an interpreter? And he said, he didn't answer me. He didn't have an answer for me. So I never to this day know why they're speaking in tongues.
What you said about that.
But that's the reason, that was one of the reasons why, because I never got an answer at that time. So that's one of the reasons why I did not accept Christianity, because I felt like it was something wrong with me, that I couldn't speak in tongues.
But there are a lot of gifts we don't have.
Exactly. But that was one of the gifts that I wanted.
So
You said in Christianity?
Yeah.
For me, I was told that the only way to get to heaven is to be baptized and pay your tithes.
And to pray through Jesus is the only way we would be able to get there.
Okay.
But of course, that's not what the Bible says. Tithe doesn't take you to heaven.
You're right. It's not in the Bible.
It's
right.
not in the Bible.
Exactly. But with,
Nobody says you that you can have 500 people.
sir, I heard it. They told me that. So we can't say no one says that. That was said.
Right.
So if somebody
Yeah.
says something
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what they teach, most of them.
Yeah.
on the other side, what is
To
your,
do what we're supposed to do. This life is just a precursor for the hereafter, the eternal life. So the things that we do, submit our will to our Creator, the heavens and the earth, is what is going to get us in the hereafter.
so
Okay.
you believe it's your works, what you do.
And
gets you to heaven.
part of it, we can do so much. We can do all. None of us are sinless. So it's not only through our works, but also through His mercy
Yes.
is what's going to get us.
But isn't it predestined? So it's predetermined whether or not you're going to get there or not.
Yeah, because He already knows. Allah already knows what we're going to do. It's already been written. So He knows what we've done and what we're going to do.
It's already qadar, it's already been
Right.
written.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, we do submit our will to our
To our
Creator.
God,
And the
yeah.
Quran is not just for Muslim, the Quran is for
For
all of
everybody.
humanity, okay? So when we do submit our will to our Creator, do the things that we're supposed to, that's what's going to get us, and through His mercy,
Right.
okay? Oh, sorry.
Could you explain if you don't know what that means?
You need to be nice.
It's a type of spiritual talk that they use, that they're communicating directly to God. So when they're speaking in tongues, you don't know what they're saying. It's a language, but it's a language that only God can understand when they're speaking it. And they're supposed to be in this Holy Spirit. You know how the Christians say that it's the Holy Ghost, the Spirit, and and they're talking to God in this tongue language. And it's supposed to be very, very spiritual. So it's a language, like I said, that God understands them in a spiritual way.
Yeah, when I was asked, it was out of curiosity. So I told the short version of what I told here. So no one questioned me like, why am I? Because it was a curiosity. They were excited. Everyone was excited. It's like, wow, Allah brought you into this. So for me, it was an excitement, or from them, they were excited. So I didn't get that, and I'm sorry to hear that you got that. You should not, absolutely not. You're in the wrong group.
Yeah, you have to come to a different group, sister.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, come somewhere else.
Yeah. So, sister, when somebody asks, why are you Muslim, say, because Allah chose